You think you're giving away your fortune, but what if it's the key to saving a life? Elena had no idea the black car would lead her to Victor's hidden truth, one that could change everything. But when she made the impossible decision to use it, she didn't know just how deep the web of secrets would go. The hospital's suite gleamed like a monument to wealth, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan's jagged skyline. Victor Harrington, a billionaire whose name once commanded boardrooms and headlines, lay diminished beneath a tangle of tubes and wires. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer had reduced him to a husk, his gaunt frame a stark contrast to the empire he'd built. At 72, his billions were useless. His wife had walked out 2 decades ago. His son James hadn't spoken to him in 10 years, and his daughter Sophia's death from leukemia at age 8 remained a scar he'd never healed. The sterile hum of machines was his only companion, a reminder of his isolation. Then, one gray afternoon, a sound pierced the silence, a soft, lilting hum. Victor turned his head, pain spiking through his wasted body, and saw her, a woman in her early 30s. Her dark hair pulled into a tight bun, moved through the room with quiet grace. Her cleaner's uniform was faded, her hands callous but steady as she wiped down surfaces with an attention most wouldn't spare. She didn't notice him watching, lost in her tune, and Victor felt something stir, something alive in this mausoleum of a room. "Who are you?" His voice was a rasp, barely cutting through the air. She froze, mop in hand, then turned with a hesitant smile. "Elena Diaz. I clean here. Sorry if I disturbed you, sir." "You didn't." He studied her, the way her eyes softened despite the weariness in them. "Keep going." She nodded and resumed her work, the humming returning like a thread of warmth. Over the next days, Elena became a fixture in Victor's shrinking world. She didn't hover like the nurses or prattle like the doctors who saw him as a case to crack. She just cleaned, left small kindnesses, a folded napkin shaped like a crane, a murmured "feel better, sir," and vanished into the hospital's invisible army of workers. Yet to Victor, she was a lifeline he couldn't explain. One evening, as the city lights flickered to life below, Victor fumbled in his bedside drawer. His trembling fingers closed around a sleek, black card, obsidian, a limitless credit line, the ultimate symbol of his success. He held it out to Elena as she adjusted his blanket. "Take it," he said, his voice cracking. Her brow creased. "Sir, take it. Live well. Do something." "I couldn't." His eyes, dulled by morphine, burned with urgency. "Please." Elena's hand hovered, uncertainty flickering across her face. "I don't understand. Why me?" "Because you're alive," he whispered, "and I've been dead too long." She took the card, its weight heavy in her palm, and slipped it into her pocket. That night, in her cramped Queens apartment, she sat at a scarred kitchen table, staring at the obsidian card beside a stack of unpaid bills. Her 5-year-old son, Mateo, slept fitfully in the next room, his persistent fevers a mystery she couldn't afford to solve. Her mother, Carmen, prayed softly over a rosary, her voice a steady hum against the city's clamor. Elena's plan was simple. One use, for Mateo's specialist tests, then she'd return it. She couldn't keep a dying man's fortune. The next day, Elena stood in a sterile office as a pediatric oncologist delivered the blow, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Mateo's fevers weren't a fluke. His small body was waging war. The doctor outlined a grueling path: chemotherapy, hospital stays, a price tag that dwarfed her yearly wage. Elena's hand tightened around the black card. She swiped it once, secured Mateo's first treatment, and whispered a promise to Victor. "I'll bring it back tomorrow." But tomorrow brought chaos. When Elena arrived at Victor's suite, a man in a crisp suit stood by his bed. James Harrington, Victor's estranged son. His sharp jaw and cold blue eyes mirrored his father's. But where Victor's gaze had softened with illness, James's was steel. He turned as Elena entered, suspicion etching his features. "Who's this?" James asked, his tone clipped. Victor coughed, a wet, ragged sound. "Elena, she's a friend." "A friend?" James's eyes raked over her uniform. "A cleaner, Dad?" He'd tracked the obsidian card's activity. Hundreds of thousands charged to a Queens hospital. And now this woman stood too close to his dying father. I gave it to her, Victor said, defiant despite his frailty. It's mine to give. James's lips thinned. We'll see, Elena stammered, trying to explain Mateo's illness, the single use, but James cut her off, his voice ice. Save it. I've seen this game before. Hours later, security escorted her out, her job suspended for misconduct. She stood on the sidewalk, the car to lead weight in her pocket, her world unraveling. Had she misjudged Victor's gift? Was this her punishment for daring to hope? That night, Victor's condition crashed. Alarms blared as nurses swarmed, but he waved them off, his eyes wild. Elena, he gasped. Where's Elena? James, pacing by the window, scowled. Gone, Dad. Probably halfway to a private island with your money. No, Victor's hand clawed at the sheet. She's not like that. Bring her back. I need to see her. James hesitated, torn between distrust and the desperation in his father's voice. He tracked Elena down, finding her in the Queen's hospital waiting room, her face etched with exhaustion as Mateo slept through his first chemo drip. Her hand rested on his, her lips moving in silent prayer. Something in her, the raw, unguarded love, pierced James's armor. He called off security and drove her back to Manhattan, silent but shaken. Victor was fading when they arrived, his breath's shallow gasps. He beckoned Elena closer, his voice a thread. I saw you with him. Mateo, outside weeks ago. He's like her. Sophia, my daughter. Tears welled, spilling over. She was 8. Leukemia took her. I couldn't save her. But you're fighting. That card is for him. Keep it. Elena's chest tightened. Victor, I only use it once. I can't. You gave me something, he interrupted, his hand trembling as it found hers. These days, peace. Let me give you this. James stood frozen as his father's words unraveled a past he'd buried. Sophia's death had shattered their family. Victor retreating into work, James into resentment. But here, in this fragile confession, was a truth he'd never faced. Victor's hand brushed James's arm, a silent plea, and for the first time in years, James didn't pull away. Victor died that night, a faint smile on his lips, the city lights dimming in his reflection. Elena wept quietly, the card clutched in her hand, while James stared at his father's still form, grappling with a flood of regret and revelation. The weeks that followed were a blur. James could have reclaimed the card, dismissed Elena as a grifter. Instead, he thought of Sophia, of her laughter, her frail hands, and made a choice. He met Elena at Mateo's bedside, her eyes wary as he approached. I was wrong, he said, voice low. About you, about him. He handed her a letter reinstating her job, then added, keep the card, for Mateo. Elena shook her head. I can't take more. You're not taking, he said. He gave it to you, and I'm making sure it sticks. 3 months later, James sat in a sleek office, Victor's estate papers before him. He founded the Elena Diaz Foundation for Childhood Cancer Support, channeling his father's fortune into a cause that bridged their broken lives. Elena, now its director, poured her heart into it, her quiet strength guiding families to the nightmares she knew too well. But the story didn't end there. A new twist emerged. Victor's was surfaced, contested by distant relatives sniffing for a payout. They claimed Elena had manipulated a dying man, demanding the card return and the foundation's dissolution. James fought back, hiring lawyers to protect Victor's final wish, but the battle drained him. One night, exhausted, he visited Sophia's grave, a place he'd avoided for decades. Kneeling in the frost, he whispered, I get it now, Dad. I'm sorry. The next day, a judge upheld Victor's will, citing his lucid intent. The foundation and Elena were safe. A year after Victor's gift, Elena stood at his grave, Mateo beside her. His hair was growing back, his remission a fragile victory. She placed a folded napkin crane on the stone, her voice soft. You saved us, Victor. Not just Mateo, me too. The obsidian card, unused since that first swipe, stayed tucked in her wallet, a symbol, not a crutch. Back home, a package waited. A letter from James and a photo of Sophia, beaming in a sunlit park. He'd be proud, James wrote. So am I. Keep fighting. Elena framed the photo beside Mateo's dinosaur drawings, a quiet tether to the man who'd seen her when no one else had. But the real ending came months later. At the Foundation's first gala, Elena took the stage, her voice steady. Victor Harrington gave me a card, but he gave me more. Hope. This isn't about money. It's about seeing each other, really seeing. That's what saved a life. The room erupted in applause, James in the front row, his eyes glistening. Mateo, now 6, ran to Elena, hugging her legs as donors pledged millions. Later, James joined them outside, the city glittering below. You save him too, you know, he said, nodding toward Victor's memory. He died with something he hadn't had in years, peace. Elena smiled, Mateo's hand in hers. Maybe we saved each other. The legacy wasn't just a foundation or Mateo's remission. It was the answer to the question that wove through their story. What does it mean to save a life? It wasn't the card's limitless wealth or the medicine it bought. It was Victor seeing Elena's humanity, Elena giving him redemption, and James letting go of a decade's bitterness. Their vulnerabilities collided, sparking a chain of hope that rippled beyond them.